Good afternoon, everyone. I am coming to you today with something a little different. I'm going to try something that is sort of crowdsourced and, well, let's just say I'm going to try something that involves all of you all to perhaps participate, which is a little nerve-wracking because what if I try it and no one participates? But we're gonna try it anyway. Okay, so came up with a tag idea, a challenge idea, and I am calling it Blurb Telephone. Okay, so what is Blurb Telephone? So basically I have found myself in a situation, as I'm sure many of us have found ourselves in these situations, where you kind of see these connections between the books you're reading and then you realize, oh my gosh, the book I just read was blurbed by the next person I just read, and the next book I read was blurbed by the person before that. Hence, Blurb Telephone. So, let's story time this. So, what happened was I was looking for books online, as I do. I think the Fitzcarraldo editions was having a sale, and I was gonna maybe buy some. So I was looking and seeing maybe which ones were best for me, and I was really intrigued by The Appointment by Katharina Volckmer. They are a German writer, I believe, and I think this was written in, let's find out. Yeah, this was written in English though, but the writer is from Germany. And no, I did not buy the Fitzcarraldo edition because I learned that their shipping to the US basically ruined any of the deal they were actually having on their website. So this is from the library. So I was really intrigued by this book. It's basically about a young German woman in London on the verge of major changes. I'm about, 26 pages in, so not very far in, but it's basically her just in a doctor's appointment with a doctor named Dr. Seligman, and it's her just kind of stream of consciousness kind of dealing with a lot of shit that's going on in her life, and she's just sort of monologuing to this doctor, and I believe the doctor is giving her a pap smear or some sort of like exam in her nether regions. And it's also The Appointment or A Story of a Jewish Cock. So I'm not exactly sure where this is going. And anyway, what inspired this is I saw that Chris Kraus, the author of I Love Dick, she blurbed the book on the front, and I was like, oh, I've always wanted to read that book. And when I had picked this up at the library, I went and browsed the stacks, and lo and behold, I found a copy on the stacks. So I picked it up and was kind of looking at it, and then I saw that there was a foreword by Eileen Myles. And Eileen Myles is a poet writer I've always been wanting to read. I feel like Rebecca from Rebecca Eats Books read her like most recent book, maybe called Inferno, and like raved about it. And yeah, so then I was like, whoa, okay, maybe then after that I'll read a book by Eileen Myles. So that's kind of the Blurb Telephone. Is I don't have the Eileen Myles book with me, but I think I am going to read Inferno after that. But I'm kind of going to read these 3 books: The Appointment, I Love Dick, and Inferno. And it's sort of a Blurb Telephone where basically the next book you have to pick up has to have been by an author who blurbed the previous book you read. So I feel like that's a pretty open challenge. If anyone's up for trying something like that, I think it could be pretty fun. I have a couple others that I feel like I could do the same with, that I just like have on my bookshelf right now. Let's actually go explore that. Ha, joke's on me. I just filmed a little bit and it wasn't filming at all, so I was just talking to nothing. But anyway, I found another example because I love to give my students multiple examples. It's just good pedagogy, okay? Okay, so another book I found on my TBR was Boulder by Ava Baltasar. This was generously gifted to me by And Other Stories, and I read Permafrost earlier this month, maybe about a month ago actually, and it was so good. I love her writing and her voice, and I'm really excited to dive into this one. But as I was looking on the back, I saw that it is blurbed by Fernanda Melchor, who, as we know, is the author of Hurricane Season. And I have been meaning to get around to this. I actually should have already read it because I was going to do a book group with Katie James. And of course, I didn't get around to it, and so I am going to be not partaking in the book group this month because I haven't read the book, which is so shameful of me. But anyway, I look on the back of this one, and it's blurbed by a couple authors that I know I've been wanting to read more of, which is Samantha Schweblin and Ben Lerner. I read Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin and The Topeka School by Ben Lerner, I think around actually the same time, like at the end of 2020. And I would be curious to read more by either of those authors. Samantha Schweblin's a little bit too mystical. I wouldn't say mystical, but more kind of magical realism, quirky, kind of out there stuff that's hard for me to grasp. But I still really liked Fever Dream, and I would like to read more of Ben Lerner's other works and maybe even some of his poetry. So, you know, here's another example of a Blurb Telephone challenge. So yeah, and you know, you can really make it whatever you want. I kind of like the boundary of it has to be a blurb on the back, but sometimes books don't have actual like blurbs by authors. They're just by like the New York Times or like bookstore owners or things like that. So you could also see like if other authors have done reviews of it. I know with Boulder, I was kind of looking and I saw the first quote she mentions in the book is a Carson McCullers quote. So you could use that as, you know, something like that. And then your next book could be by Carson McCullers. I don't know. I just think this is a fun, creative way for me to knock some books off my desired reading list. And then usually they probably all have some sort of hopefully maybe similar themes or writing, or if they're kind of all blurbing each other. I don't know if that is what people are into, but sometimes I like reading things more thematically or that are more in a flow with one another. So I don't know, I think it's just up to you, but hopefully you all think that this will be enjoyable. And I'll get started with the appointment. So I'm only about 25 pages in, as I was saying, but so far I've already laughed out loud a lot. And this is about a young woman who is seeing, as I mentioned, a gynecologist, and is just basically doing this incessant monologue, just like constantly, like just talking through things. And it's like not a ton has been revealed yet, but I'm really curious to see how this goes. Let me know if you've read this. So I'm going to go hang out with a friend who is also very bookish, and we're gonna go to this place I've been wanting to go for a while called Drink Books. It's in Seattle, and it is a book wine bar. And it looks like their book selection is pretty incredible. I follow them on Instagram, and they have a lot of like translated fiction, literary fiction, women writers. I'm very excited, and it looks like they have lots of yummy wine. So that's what I'll be doing with my day, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll keep you posted on what I'm reading and how this whole blurb telephone thing works out. Okay, hopefully this is something people will partake in, or at least acknowledge as something sort of cool. I don't know. Okay, bye. friends. I'm just here looking like a wet dog because I just took a shower. And I'm gonna update you where I'm at with my reading. Drinking some iced coffee, as I do. And let's see here. So, I finished The Appointment last night. Thought it was really funny, very beautiful, heartbreaking at the same time. Felt kind of a lot because the narrator just doesn't take a breath, is really just going for 130 pages. I mentioned before, there's like no pausing. But it really came full circle at the end, I felt, and there's just a lot of really good musings on gender, one's heritage, the past, trauma, just really good stuff. And I am really excited to see more from this author. I just feel like this was also a really frank exploration of being trans or not feeling at home in your body, particularly a woman's body, and all of the side effects that come with that. I just think this was really well done and funny, and yes, sometimes I did think it was teetering on, I don't know what it was teetering on, but some ledge that I was like, don't go that way, and it never did go that way, so I appreciated it. It was self-aware enough not to do that, so yeah, let me know what you think of this book, if you've read it. And yeah, I quickly then moved on to Chris Kraus's I Love Dick. And since this is Blurb Telephone, let's read what Chris Kraus had to say about The Appointment. So Chris Kraus said it was surprising, inventive, disturbing, and beautiful. The Appointment is an overdue radical intervention. So cool. We did that. And now we are now reading Chris Kraus. And I've never read anything by her. I actually don't know a lot about her. I did like look up her Wikipedia page after I started reading this morning because I was curious just to know more. And this is very much an autobiographical novel. And so far it's pretty funny. It's really just about this couple who are very academic intellectuals who meet this other intellectual artist named Dick that they then become obsessed with. And mostly Chris, she names herself, the main character is named after herself, and her husband, who was her husband in real life, kind of start this just frantic letter writing to Dick, and most of them don't get sent. They want to do this collaborative project with them, and they basically become obsessed. And I'm learning a lot, or this book is showing a lot about what ignites female desire. And it's interesting to see. It's also just so funny and like pretty ridiculous at the same time. I don't know, the two characters are kind of insufferable also, so, but most academic intellectuals are insufferable, so we're just going with that. But it seems self-aware. I hope it's self-aware and they understand how insufferable they are. Yeah, so anyway, I'm just enjoying that. It's really just written in letters so far. I'm only about 100 pages in, and I think the whole thing is written in letters. I don't know. This book, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. These are two very, I don't know, I feel like they're two very privileged people, and they talk about how they get their money from being landlords, so I'm also just like skeptical. Okay, so as we know, after this, I'm gonna read Inferno, a poet's novel by Eileen Myles. I just got this at the library this morning. It just came in, so perfect timing. And in I Love Dick, Eileen Myles wrote a foreword, and I haven't read it yet. I did skip it before I started, but I definitely will it's only like 2 pages, so I should just freaking read it. It's not that hard. But I am gonna read that and finish this up, and then excited to pick up Inferno by Eileen Myles. And so far, I think all three of these are gonna be an interesting look at form in writing, and then I think all of them explore gender in one way or another. So really excited to be doing this, and I'll let you know more as I keep reading this one and as I start this one. I'm just powering through. Okay, bye. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi. I'm just in my comfy jammies. Oh, I just lost my place. Or did I lose my place? I'll find it again. Just been reading I Love Dick. I've been having up and down feelings about it where I'll find the characters insufferable, and then I'll all of a sudden sympathize with them, and then I'll find them insufferable again, and then I'll sympathize with them. And I think I'm realizing that's just because there is this vulnerability, particularly to Chris in this book, and that she's just very raw, and really just feeling so many things and exploring so many things, and really just objecting herself to her emotions. And I don't know, I think it's shifting, and I'm starting to like it a lot more. I'm about halfway through, and I think it's like finally settling in, and I'm starting to like it. So it wasn't like I wasn't liking it before. I was just like uncertain. Yeah, so I will fill you in as I read more. Okay, bye. One last thought before I go to bed on... Ow. This book is how much it reminds me of Rachel Cusk's Second Place. Both epistolary novels, so written in letters, and are particularly about women trying to find their own place and identity whilst being kind of wrapped up in this obsession with a particular male artist. So, just realizing that. Curious to see how they're similar and different, and what other people have written about that or noticed that. Hello all. Thought I'd give you all a little bookish update. I finished I Love Dick last night, and I'm gonna get to this in a minute. We're still on our little Blurb Telephone train, but I just wanted to say praise be to Interlibrary Loan, because I am holding a copy of The Loft by Marlene Haushofer. And as you know, I read The Wall last month, and it just blew me away, and I loved it so much that I really wanted to read some of her other work. And The Loft was one of those books that just looked so good. I'll read the synopsis to you. A 1960s Austrian housewife is forced to re-examine her past when pages from old diaries mysteriously begin to arrive in her letterbox. Each day after the windows are clean and the baking is done, she forces herself to read and burn the evidence of her troubled youth. It explores the anatomy of a desiccated marriage, the power of solitude, and the discord of Austrian society in the aftermath of Nazism. It is a disturbing and ultimately uplifting tale of alienation, survival, and of finding joy in the strangest places. So really wanted to read this, and I was looking for a copy to buy, and apparently it's like out of print, the English translation. And it has only been translated into English once by kind of an obscure press, Quarter Books, I think, Quartet Books. And yeah, I basically couldn't find a copy, and all the copies I found were like $500. But then I went on interlibrary loan and was able to borrow this from another university's library. So very, very excited to read it. And gonna treat this copy very carefully because they're pretty rare. So excited. Okay, so yes, I finished I Love Dick last night, and this is such a journey of a book because when I started reading it, I really wasn't sure how I felt about it, but after reading it, I really appreciated this novel. A lot of people talk about this novel as if it like kind of changed the face of fiction, particularly for women. I think so much of all the books that are really popular now about kind of the unhinged woman, the woman who is just kind of over the top, objects herself for desire, debases herself, you know, like these kinds of things. I feel like Chris Kraus, this novel maybe really set the stage for that and allowed women to have this space. I am not knowledgeable enough to truly, I think, analyze this text in more of a movement sense because I just haven't read enough, and this book is very theory heavy, and so there were a lot of things that were like, whoop, all right, fancy pants people, that is over my head, but still accessible, I think, if you do want to read this. Yeah, definitely not like perfect. It doesn't, not every single thing in here stands the test of time. I feel like there are some things about race that are a little weird, and then also like class. I don't know, I feel like I'll have more to say maybe later when I conclude this video, when I've had more time to think about it. But finished, and I've read the foreword by Eileen Myles, who's quoted and I think friends with Chris Kraus in real life in this book. So I'm gonna start Inferno, a poet's novel. All the books for this theme I think are also going to have a strong look at desire, particularly from female desire. So yeah, the first sentence in this book is about how beautiful her English professor's ass was, so that's great. Okay, so now I'm on number 3, Blurb Telephone, number 3. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, bye. Hi friends. I thought I would just update you all on Inferno by Eileen Myles. I think last time we checked in with you all was on Friday. It is now Monday. I kind of had like a weird weekend. It was really smoky here, and so I got pretty affected by it. We had like some of the worst air quality in the world over the weekend, and so I was kind of down for the count and did not get a ton of reading done. So I have about 100 pages left of this. I'm a little more than halfway through. And I don't know. I think through reading this book, there were times when I was unsure about it. It is written in a very poetic prose. It is called a poet's novel, and Eileen Myles is a poet through and through. She makes that very clear in this book. And this is very much autobiographical, about kind of her moving to New York in the 70s from Boston and starting her life as a poet, and the poverty she went through, the scene she was in. And I always think it's interesting to read about this time because I feel as though it's very romanticized. It reminds me a lot of Patti Smith's Just Kids. She actually talks about Patti Smith in here. I think Patti Smith was like really big when she moved to New York. this follows just like a little bit behind just kids as far as timing, if people are curious. And it's just interesting to read about that time because it feels so fantastical almost, although it's like doesn't sound fantastical, right? Because it's living in abject poverty and squalor basically for art. And what's interesting about this book is how, it's where I'm at now, it's later in the 90s when she has kind of finally made a name for herself and is actually living off of her art. How she kind of looks back at how the 80s sort of like squashed this kind of artist movement, particularly with the Reagan administration, funding taken away from the National Endowment for the Arts, the AIDS crisis, etc. And so there are things about this that I really like. And then I wouldn't say there's anything that I don't like. I just think there's something in this that's not fully clicking for me. What's kind of fun as far as this whole Blurb Telephone challenge is that Chris Kraus is mentioned quite frequently in this book. So that's kind of really tying it all together. But it's very much an exploration of art and gender and how to live for one's art, what it means to be a poet. I think there's some beautiful lines in here about that. So yeah, I'll keep reading and let you all know, but that's sort of where I'm at with this. Yeah, and then I'll kind of be, I guess, done. I could keep going if I really wanted to. I could read a John Waters book. I know he just came out with, I can't remember the title, but I'm going to look it up after this. Came out with this book. So if I were to keep going, it's possible. But I'm probably going to stop the telephone, cut it off from here. And this will be the last one. But I feel like I'm getting a whole new world of like this art scene in New York in the 90s that I'm not full, like, especially with Chris Kraus, that I wasn't fully aware of. She's also like friends with Kathy Acker. I would almost even say maybe frenemies. I don't know. And so there's just like a lot of, I don't know. I feel like with I Love Dick and now reading this, both these novels were very, it can come off as kind of name droppy when you read them after the fact, because it's sort of like they were known for the scene, you know, and that's just, I don't know, maybe I'm a little cynical, or I don't know, that just feels sort of like, I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't necessarily rub me the wrong way, but I'm just a little bit like, you know, like, can your art stand on its own outside of a scene, I guess, is the question. And I do, I think Eileen Myles' poems and this book so far are very beautiful and well written, and it's a very much like enticing book for sure, but I'm just like a little weary of like all the name dropping. It's kind of what it feels like, oh, I was there, and it's sort of like, okay, I don't know, it's like the same with the Patti Smith Just Kids. I feel like that book was also very much like name droppy, and you know, I was at the Chelsea Hotel and so, and it's sort of like, okay, again, it adds to the myth. That's really what I feel like this era of New York feels like 70s, 80s, 90s New York is just like this mythic proportion that is talked about in these novels. So I'm just, you know, thinking about that. What does that mean? I don't know. So it's fun to learn about though. So, okay, I'm gonna stop talking and then read more. Let you know if last 100 pages changes my thoughts, but I will check in once I finish it. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Get him too. Watch out though.
Say that you love to read.
I love to read, and I love how silly my shirt looks.
Hello, sweet babies. So thank you for coming along this journey with me of Ring Ring Blurb Telephone. No idea if this is one of those ideas in my head that seems cool, and then when I present it to the world, people are like, huh? And if that's the case, fine. It's fine. But to wrap all this up, I will just say I finished Inferno, meaning I didn't really finish the last maybe 20-30 pages because the prose was just difficult and frustrating. That's not to say that it's bad. It's just to say that I was really just at the time, they're trudging through all three of these really heady books. I just was really kind of like, it was like I was trudging through the end of this and I just didn't want to anymore. So I stopped because y'all, we don't owe anybody anything. And we don't have to read things if we don't want to. I will say lots of good nuggets in this book. I still recommend people read it. And I would like to try reading maybe some of Eileen Myles' poetry and see how it goes from there. But I feel like I can say all three of these books were so weirdly connected, particularly these two, especially with kind of exploring femininity, rejecting femininity, not knowing where you stand as a feminist, maybe as a lesbian, when you don't necessarily feel at home as a quote-unquote woman. So those were great. These two were great together because Chris Kraus is like supporting role in this book, not totally, but plays kind of a big part in Eileen Myles' life. Yeah, just really interesting to read them back to back. Also, if you don't know, Eileen Myles was the inspiration for this character in Transparent, and I think might be in a relationship with Jill Soloway, the writer of Transparent. I don't know. Anyway, finished it. We blurbed. We read the blurbs. We followed the blurbs. We did it. Thanks everyone for following along. I hope that this is a fun thing that maybe you can try. And please let me know if it's something you're interested in. I might post some things on the socials about it. Maybe some templates. Remember, I'm not a social media guru, so be gentle with me. I don't even remember last time I used a hashtag, so I'm gonna try my best. Okay, bye.